Did you watch the Democratic debate last night? If so, I am so sorry. But if not, here's the only highlight you really need to know. The same people who say $25 billion for a wall to keep child molesters and gangs from just meandering into our country is too high a price tag are now promising to give away trillions in free stuff. And all you have to do is pay for it. Welcome to the age of free, so long as you're willing to open up your wallet. And if last night's Democratic debate was any indicator, you probably won't have much left in it if liberal politicians get their way. Bernie Sanders, of course, wants to give everyone free health care, even if you're not in the country legally. Because, hey, who cares if you're actually paying into the system that you're mooching off of? Now, setting aside the fact that our current, much more limited Medicare system is already about as pleasant as having a root canal and a colonoscopy scheduled on the same day, the estimated costs for Bernie's Medicare for All plans start at $33 trillion over the next decade. And frankly, that's probably a low ball. Now, considering that the entire U.S. budget is about $4 trillion a year, an extra $3 trillion a year might seem like a hefty price tag, but it's okay, because how does Bernie Sanders intend to pay for it? By taxing the rich. And you. Pete Budaj says that he's not a fan of Medicare for All, but he does want to provide Medicare for all who want it. On top of that, his plan includes building more hospitals, subsidizing the doctors in them, building public transportation in rural areas, expanding access to healthy food, expanding telehealth medicine, expanding broadband, expanding funding for pregnancy health care, and more. Now, we have no clue how much that's going to run us, but we do know how he plans to pay for it. By taxing the rich. And you. Elizabeth Warren wants to start all but shooting out free college degrees from t-shirt cannons at sporting events. Her $1.25 trillion education plan includes forgiving almost all student loan debt, as well as making all 2- and 4-year colleges free for everyone. Now, how does Warren plan to pay for it? By taxing the rich. And you. Cory Booker plans to give $40 billion a year to the Housing Trust Fund for the government to build and operate rental housing for low-income communities. He also wants the government to cut people a check if they're spending more than 30% of their income on rent. According to his own campaign, that whole plan, subsidies included, would cost about $134 billion a year. And how does Booker plan to pay for it? By taxing the rich. And you. Kamala Harris wants to give every family 6 months of paid, government-subsidized parental leave. Now, the American Action Forum says that providing just 4 months of paid family leave would cost the government upwards of $1.9 trillion a year. So you can do the math on that. She's also proposed subsidizing childcare costs and expanding the school day by 10 hours by adding extra after-school programs. Harris also wants to increase federal funding for preschool programs and significantly increase Title I funding for schools in low-income areas. Oh, and she also wants to give the average American teacher a $13,500 raise. According to the Education Department, there are about 3.2 million K-12 public school teachers in this country, so that would cost us about $43 billion a year for the raises alone. Now, Harris still hasn't said how she'll plan to pay for it. She doesn't really talk about that much. But you can pretty much well bet that it will hinge on taxing the rich. And you. See, there's a problem with saying that billionaires are going to pay for all of this stuff. Eventually, you run out of billionaires to tax. You bleed them dry, and it's still not enough. You de-incentivize people to earn more money by penalizing them when they do. Now, as the country expands, all of these programs will never cost less. They will only ever cost more. And eventually, this wealth tax revenue stream will dry up. So who'll end up footing more and more of the bill? Everyday Americans. You. Because that's ultimately what all of this junk comes down to. Control of you. You don't know how to spend your money, so the government's going to spend it for you. You don't know what you need, so the government is going to determine that for you. You can't raise your own kids, so the government is going to raise them for you. You don't know how to solve your own problems, run your own business, choose your own health care, or live your own life. You are so stupid that the government is going to run all of that for you. There's just one problem with a politician who is willing to promise you anything. It ends up costing you everything. And you had better be sure you're good with that trade, because once you surrender your life to the government, you will never get it back. And that's your Reality Check America. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page, like us on Facebook and Twitter, and stay sane out there.